So, again, then Jesus said to the disciples, there was a rich man who had a manager, and charges were brought to him that this man was squandering his property. So he summoned him and said to him, what is this that I hear about you? Give me an account of your management, because you cannot be my manager any longer. Then the manager said to himself, what will I do now that my master is taking the position away from me? I'm not strong enough to dig, and I'm ashamed to beg. I have decided what to do, so that when I'm dismissed as manager, people may welcome me into their homes. So, summoning his master's debtors one by one, he asked the first, how much do you owe my master? He answered, 100 jugs of olive oil. He said to him, take your bill, sit down quickly, and make it 50. Then he asked another, and how much do you owe? He replied, 100 containers of wheat. He said to him, take your bill and make it 80. And his master commended the dishonest manager because he had acted shrewdly. For the children of this age are more shrewd in dealing with their own generation than are the children of light. And I tell you, make friends for yourselves by means of dishonest wealth, so that when it is gone, they may welcome you into the eternal homes. Whoever is faithful in a very little is faithful also in much, and whoever is dishonest in a very little is dishonest also in much. If then you have not been faithful with the dishonest wealth, who will entrust to you the true riches? And if you have not been faithful with what belongs to another, who will give you what is your own? No slave can serve two masters, for a slave will either hate the one and love the other, or be devoted to the one and despise the other. And again, the last line, you cannot serve God and wealth. That's the last thing. So, what are your initial thoughts?
Very confusing.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. I'm struggling with that one. So I don't understand why he's got all that money. He got the sack, obviously, because he did.
You got the master, you got the manager.
But the manager got the sack because he didn't do what he supposed to do in this job. But then he went out and then he charged, say somebody with 100, he cut it down to 50. So what happens then? Is he going to take the 50 back to the master, or is he just going to keep that for himself?
No, he's not taking it for the master, he's not keeping it himself. He's just doing a favor to the other person, so that you become kind of, you support him if the things go to the court, and you become like his supporters. He's winning your favor by doing a favor to you.
Falsifying the bill.
But he's also wreaking revenge on the owner as well, isn't he? Because the owner's not going to get what he's due.
So
I
can't understand why then the master commends him. No, yes.
No.
That seems very strange.
Perhaps he didn't want 100 jugs of olive oil.
I think that's one of the key points we'll come to it, but one of the key points in the whole of the parable is that this manager is commended by his master. Keep that in mind.
Is it the stewards making it easier for other people to pay their debts? They've got a small task to do. I mean, if somebody says, "Oh, you owe me 100,000," I'm going to be totally stuck. If somebody says, "Can you be a fiver?" I've got no problem.
But what's the motivation for doing that?
Something is better than nothing is the motivation.
So that they will look after him when he's out of work.
If you cut the price of something, you sell
The
more.
motivation is he's a corrupt manager, because that's why he's scared of the master, because master heard about the mismanagement. So he's done obviously something wrong. But in what he's doing is cleverly, and that's why he's called shrewd. He's involved other people in his corruption. Therefore, he's not alone when it comes to, so that he's got supporters for him.
They might give him a job.
That's how it ends, no? I mean, it doesn't say they will give him a job, but says, and he might be welcomed by them to their house, because I'm not good enough to work, I'm not good enough to beg, so when I lose this job, I've got somebody, I want some people who would support me. His motivation is not right in the sense, it's not doing a favor to the master, but he's winning other people's favors by exploiting master's wealth in a way. So, and anything else? What are the thoughts?
I find this bit about them more shrewd in dealing with their own generation than the sons of light.
Okay. The people of this world are, what does it say? I've got it there. People of this world are more shrewd
in dealing
than
with their own generation
than the children of light.
Sons of light.
Yeah. Again, another key point in this parable. Keep that in mind also. So,
What
yeah.
does that mean?
We'll come to it, what does it mean? That's what I'm saying, keep that in mind. Anything else at this stage? Okay, let's move on because we don't want to be here forever. Why does Jesus highlight the manager's shrewdness? And that's the key point, so I think Barbara mentioned. So what Jesus is saying in this parable is, he's highlighting the shrewdness, but not the dishonesty. I think that's something to remember.
So he's highlighting the goodness, the good, and not the evil side of the person.
Yeah, so shrewdness is good in the sense that there are other words, I have it written, but at this stage I can say and then ignore. So the word shrewd in some translations also comes as wise, as clever, intelligent, cunning as well, and smart in those meanings. So shrewdness means wise or very shrewd. So Jesus actually is highlighting the shrewdness or the wisdom or cleverness of this man, but he's not highlighting the dishonesty. So when we read this passage, we actually straight away think about him being dishonest. Therefore, why is Jesus commending him? So the thing to remember is, Jesus is commending the shrewdness. And when it comes to that verse of the children of this world are more shrewd compared to the children of light. So he's talking about the wisdom of the children of the world and the wisdom of the children of light, which means referring to the good people. The children of light is an expression used in the Gospel of St. John as well. The children of light referring to sort of the good people. The children of the world are those who are sort of not so good. We will come worldly people. So Jesus says then, this is again another tricky word, difficult one. And I think we struggle with that. And Jesus says to make friends with unrighteous wealth. What do you think he means by that? So we've got three things which are key to understanding this parable. One is the commending or commending the manager, who is not being very good, who is dishonest. Second one is children of the light and the sort of that. And the third one is Jesus saying, make friends with the unrighteous wealth.
Does that mean that perhaps with your influence you can have the wealth used for, even though it was gained unrighteously, it can be used for good?
Yeah, that's definitely in there. So let's move on. And what does it mean to be faithful with little? But these are the things in the parable. Because that reflects what we do with the small responsibility
Often
compared to sort of...
Communities who are quite poor can be more generous and sharing the little they have. I mean, that happened in the war when people shared We didn't have much, but people shared what they.
It
happens in
also-
our
it also-
diocese.
It also refers to the sense of responsibility.
Yeah.
So what we do with the little that we have, or the responsibility that you're given, how do you carry out that responsibility? And that shows about how committed I am, how honest I am. And if I'm not honest, and it's very clear, if I'm not honest with the little tasks that I've been given, then surely bigger responsibility, I'll probably be dishonest in that as well. And the same with the money. If I'm given £10 for me to go and shop, and then I come back and I've given an account to somebody else, and I've taken 50p from that. Well, what happens when I'm giving £100? What happens when I'm giving £1,000? So this reflects in sort of the person's way of behaving and dealing with the smaller things. It's a reflection of what you could do when you bigger responsibility.
And if you nick the pens off the table at the back of the church,
Yeah, I mean, it's small things.
things like that, yeah.
Well, you've got the saying, haven't you? If you look after the pennies, and the pounds will look after themselves. So it's sort of it's still reflecting that if you look after the little things, then everything else follows. Sort of thing.
Yeah. And then the next question, why does Jesus draw a connection between money and true riches? Again, that comes in our parable today. Let's go. So, the difficult verses in this parable. I think if we can understand those verses, we can make sense of this parable. So the first one is, and his master commended the dishonest manager because he had acted shrewdly. So I already made a comment. So the manager is commended not for his dishonesty, but is commended for shrewdness. And that's the key to remember. The shrewdness, because Jesus emphasizes them later on that point. For the children of this age are more shrewd in dealing with their own generation than are the children of light. So there are two groups of people. So Jesus is making a point by separating the two. The children of the world, for those God and goodness doesn't matter. They just get on with their life regardless of what others would go through or suffer. And then there are the children of light who think about how to live our lives and not do things that would exploit others. So then we have verses 8 to 15. And his master commended us. So master commending the shrewd manager might seem scandalous, but in Matthew we find Jesus using a similar example while sending his disciples. So it says, be like shrewd as this manager is. But there's a term that Jesus uses in Matthew 10:16 when he sends his disciples into the world. He says, behold, I'm sending you out as sheep in the midst of wolves. So be wise, another word, be shrewd, as serpents, and innocent as doves. So it's a similar kind of thing. Be shrewd as this dishonest manager. It's the same way, be wise as the serpent, or the other word is be clever.
Streetwise.
Be streetwise.
Yeah.
And some translation I have there, smart, clever, cunning. This is translation in different Bibles actually of the word shrewd. So it needs to be understood in that. So Jesus is emphasizing the shrewdness, the wisdom. So what does that manager do? He wins other people. That's the key point. He is winning other people. Yes, he's using the wealth of somebody else, but he's getting a favor. He's winning friends. So that's one point. That's what Jesus is using that word shrewd for the children of the light. So be shrewd to win other people. Now the problem then comes with the next bit, which is the dishonest wealth. I think that's where we struggle. So one is the sort of the, so if we understand that Jesus is commending not the dishonesty but the shrewdness, that's fine. I think we begin to make sense of that bit. verse 8. But what about dishonest wealth? Again, so let's try to make sense of that. The words are Hebrew expression for unrighteous mammon, another translation used quite a lot, commonly used in the New Testament. So, I think on top it says, of unrighteousness, the wealth of unrighteousness. What does it mean? The word unrighteous here stands opposed to the true riches. Again, it means deceitful, false, not to be trusted. I think, so the word used here is unrighteous wealth is in the sense of the wealth is deceitful, the wealth is false, and this wealth is not to be trusted. This wealth is not permanent. This wealth is unrighteous. So it's used in that sense. So unrighteous wealth, make friends with the unrighteous wealth. So it refers to the wealth itself, which is not to be trusted, which is unholy. And unholy in the sense that it is not everlasting. And if we understand that, then it becomes slightly easier to understand this parable. It has two meanings. So it is called mammon of unrighteous because such wealth is often unrighteously kept or detained. And it's not used for right and good purposes. So it becomes unrighteous. So your wealth in itself is not unrighteous. But it might have been, one interpretation is might have been earned by unrighteous ways. And it becomes unrighteous. Yeah. And the other interpretation is, it is called so because it is possessed by unrighteous people. Or used in an unrighteous manner, in luxury, pride, and intemperance or exploitation and so. So when Jesus is saying, win people or make friends with the unrighteous wealth, basically in some translations, this word unrighteous wealth is used as worldly wealth. And I think then it becomes slightly easier to understand this parable. So sometimes the things are sort of complicated by translation.
Yeah.
And this idea of unrighteous or righteous wealth does not signify therefore that the wealth is acquired unjustly, but that wealth was deceitful and not to be trusted. So unrighteous wealth refers to something that's not trustworthy. You have it today, you might not have it tomorrow. So Jesus is saying, be shrewd, the wealth that you have, to sort of, re-paraphrase it, or put it in a different way. So, the worldly wealth that you have is, be shrewd in using it in order to make friends. And as a righteous person, as a children of the light, you're making friends not to exploit them, as this shrewd manager is doing. You're making friends to bring people into the kingdom of God. So when as churches we do so many different things, and we put out our activities, and of course they cost money and our time and all that kind of thing. So we're using that wealth in one sense in order to bring people into the kingdom of God. So that's what actually Jesus is saying. So be clever with the wealth that you have, which is temporary, it's not going to last forever. So as long as you have it, use it for the good, to make friends. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So the wealth of the world is deceitful, and it may give us support or comfort now, but it may be soon removed, taken away. Therefore, use it to drive benefits from it. Finally, the children of this age are more shrewd, again going back to that verse, in dealing with their own generation than the children of light. So basically what it's saying is, look at the children of the world. The wealth they have, how do they use it? just for their own benefit and for their luxury and all that kind of thing. But you as the children of light, use this wealth for the goods of others. What they could learn from the children of this age has to be to do with making friends for themselves so that those new friends might welcome them into the eternal home. So they're making friends for just all sorts of other things. But you as children of light make friends for a different purpose. And I think that's what we do in our mission and ministry, different churches. That we all the time making friends, and we want to make friends and reach out to people. What's the motivation? We are being wise in order to bring them to God, but the children of the world are being shrewd in maybe making friends in order to exploit them, to use them to their own benefit. We have different gangs, we hear of them. They go first. What's their sort of modus operandi? You make friends first and then gradually get them into the gangs and all that kind of thing. Things like that.
It's like saying, we're not wanting to welcome them so they then put money into our coffers, but for who they are, and to bring them to the Lord. And it makes an interesting point about the problem that so many charities and museums and things are having, where the boards are saying we won't accept money from somebody because we don't like them, their principles are not ours, but if they accepted that money it could be used for good, so I'm not quite sure where that leaves you.
Yeah, and I think that there's so much truth in that, but that's because then the society that we live in
It's so
sort of morally comes to the point of political correctness. If you're accepting that money, means you are associating sort of with them, and you become part of them, and you are sort of part of the crime, so to say, if they are earning wealth from that, rather than separating sort of the two. Yes, you got somebody who's corrupt, which happens all the time in politics and all that kind of thing. You got somebody corrupt, but then this corrupt person got so much wealth, but is happy to give that money. So whether you can separate the two or not, and that's where the moral question comes in and struggles. So is it morally right to accept that wealth or donation, let's say, from somebody who's corrupt, and to use it maybe to feed 100,000 people?
They might use it for other corrupt things if they kept it, can't they? If they kept that money, they may use it badly.
Corrupt more
badness,
or use it for the wrong purpose, even for exploitation. And
if we take it and use it for the right things.
But that's where the moral question comes in, whether ethically is it right or not. And that's where I think the people would say, no, we don't accept, because then you are associating obviously that money with that person, rather than separating, yes, it's a corrupt person, but this can be used for something good.
It's a bit of a contrast between the fact that Jews are really aren't successful and righteous if they make a lot of money. In other words, it's a paradox that they're rewarded because they are righteous. They have lots of money. I'm not sure where it all fits with this.
That goes to, there's a trend in the USA, I think it started from there in the last few years, of prosperity gospel. Which is based on this very basic principle, and the wealthier you are, the more blessed you are.
It shows what a better person you are.
It also raises then another sort of spiritual, moral, ethical question. Are those people who are poor and struggling in their life, are they then cursed? Are they not blessed? Or does God not care for them? So there is something fundamentally wrong with the prosperity gospel. But it's very powerful, very strong. And people are exploited on those bases. Give to church, and God will give you.
It's very Old Testament.
The bigger donation you give, the bigger blessing you will get.
It's not based on the Gospels, no. Based on the Old Testament.
Isn't there a danger of thinking of wealth primarily in terms of monetary? wealth.
Yeah, if
And a
you
lot
think
of
blessing,
people talk
yeah.
about that.
But
there
many-
are other aspects of
Many churches actually, unfortunately, emphasize on the fact that visible blessing in the monetary terms. You go to a bigger house and you will go to churches, some big Pentecostal churches, free churches, they will say, oh, you want a big house, you want a big car, you got this or this or this or this. Give to church, be generous, and God will be even more generous with you. And that generosity and blessing is in terms of material terms, rather than you'll become a better person, you'll become a more sort of, you'll have peace of mind and heart and all that kind of thing, and your life becomes sort of
the danger is,
exemplary life. Yeah.
the danger being that if somebody therefore is not monetary wealthy, we do not look at other aspects of wealth that they might have.
Yeah.
Just the skill of sharing
Yeah.
knowledge, sharing what they've learned of the gospel and things like that. These are wealth, very often more useful to other
Blessings. Yeah. So, I think we're coming to this. So, various translations just emphasizing the fact of unrighteous wealth. I think it makes it so. The one in New International Version says, "I tell you, use worldly wealth," and instead of saying unrighteous wealth. English Standard Version says that, "I tell you, make friends for yourselves by means of unrighteous wealth." I think that's where we get into trouble with it, when we read that translation. King James again says, "the mammon of unrighteousness." But there are many translations which use the word worldly wealth. So if we can sort of understand those two words, then it makes it sort of slightly easy read or easier to understand. The audience who is Jesus talking to, again, is talking to his disciples first, and then wider audience is actually Pharisees and others. And in fact, this parable ends with the verse 13, but if you read verse 14, it says, "The Pharisees who are lovers of money heard all this and they ridiculed him. So he said to them, you are those who justify yourselves in the sight of others, but God knows your hearts." And For what is prized by human beings is an abomination in the sight of God. It ends with that. So there's the audience that the disciples ask questions. So Jesus is talking to the disciples, but there are the people who are listening to that as well. So he's got two sets of audience. Does it make sense now?
Yes.
This parable.
Yeah, thank you.
About Jesus talking about the riches and all those kind of things is kind of said quite often about the riches, about wealth. These are some of the other parables actually that talk about wealth. Jesus saying, use the wealth for good things. The first one is the camel and the eye of the needle. We know that treasure in heaven, again, build treasures in heaven rather than the worldly wealth. Unrighteous wealth, serving two masters, you can't serve two masters, wealth and all. The parable of the rich fool, again, he was so attached to his possessions, he couldn't sort of let go. And the parable of the rich man and Lazarus, again, sort of, you know the story there. So this is not something new that Jesus talked about, the wealth on one side, but this parable, because of the words used, unrighteous wealth, I think, and the shrewd manager, these are the two key words that make it difficult for us to understand. But once we can unpack, the shrewdness is in terms of wisdom, and Jesus is not commending the dishonesty, but is commending the wisdom. So be wise, learn from other people. And the second one is the wealth. The wealth is actually a temporary thing, and in itself it's unrighteous, but if you use it for the good, then make friends with this, and people will welcome you. Again, is talking about welcoming you into heavenly home. So it's not about this world, because so what it means is that you have brought people into the kingdom of God. they are going to be part of the heavenly home, and if they go before you, they'll welcome you there. So that's what it means. Yeah, I think that's it. So we'll stop with this. Any comments or anything you want to add to? Or have I complicated it even more?
It's all very difficult.
Yeah, it's monitors the tool and it's a unit, that's basically what you're saying, isn't it?
So next session, which, any parables you want, or shall I just pick two?
What will the next session be?
Well, you got the Tuesday parable.
We got to choose it.
Yeah. These two were suggested by some. So if you have any two of the parables in the next session you want to go through, if not, I'll just choose. A good shepherd is not a parable, I think we said. It's the story of Jesus in the Gospel of St. John, chapter 10. But
It would probably be quite good to look at one that is in all three synoptic
Gospels.
and see
Okay.
maybe the different stars put on it by
No parable in John.
No.
No, so
Yeah.
maybe it's
So
something-
okay, I'll pick one which is found in all the three Gospels. So we can sort of compare them.
because they would have all been written in terms of a different audience possibly,
Yeah.
wouldn't they?
Okay.
So,
We'll do that, and if it's not too long, I'll pick something else.
yeah, okay.
Or maybe two from the synoptics. Yeah.
I'm getting confused.
So which
We were
one?
talking about 3 Gospels, aren't there 4?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So.
If you come last week, you
No, because I mentioned in the last, John, in the last session we mentioned that the parables are found only in the three Gospels. The Gospel of St. John does not have any parables. So that's why we're mentioning three Gospels. Yeah. Thank you. Anything else? Anyone wants to add to?
Can I just still ask,
Yeah?
why is it the last one is first and the first is last? Why is that?
The short answer would be because Jesus, when he's talking to the Jewish audience, in which very often there are the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the chief priests, and the scribes, and all the top class religious hierarchy, they think that they are the only ones, and they are the first ones to enter the kingdom of God, and sometimes even think they are the only ones to enter the kingdom of God. Jesus is saying, no, there will be other people who would come after me. They would also belong to the kingdom of God. And so they are after you, they are last in that sense. So kingdom of God is not just yours, it belongs to everyone. So you've been in church all your life, let's say, and I just come sort of in my 60s, 70s to the church. And you can't think that because I'm more blessed and I'm more closer to God because I've been all my life in church and Younis has come only in the last 6 months, therefore he must be the last in the queue in order to enter the kingdom of God. So it's Jesus saying, if you don't, you might have been in church for all your life and you're not doing the things that are you meant to be doing, but if this person has come in the last 6 months, but he's still sort of on the journey of faith, he's trying to do his best, he could even go before you. So it's in that sense of Jesus talking to the Jewish audience and even disciples saying, don't think that you're following me and all that kind of thing. Even you have to sort of do this. And they're struggling with that. We found in Peter saying, what about us? We left everything.
That's right.
Jesus saying, don't think you left everything and therefore you're going to be the first. You still have to do sort of there'll be others. And we say in terms of now, we in terms of the journey of faith as believers, yes, of course Jews have been before us and they had the prophets and all that kind of thing. In one sense, they are the first ones because they were before us, people of faith, chosen people of God. We as Christians have come after them. So we might be the last in that sense. They are the first and we are the last. But if we live according to what we expect to do, we might be first to go in and they might be behind us. So it's in that sense of first and
Sort of
last.
anti-ego, really, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Anti-ego.
It's anti-ego and sort of anti-pride and all the self-righteousness and all that kind of thing. And dealing with those sort of feelings of envy and self-righteousness. Yeah, I'm the good one.
Yes.
Yeah, there might be somebody behind me, he might even go before me.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's in that sense.
And sometimes the goodness is only known to God in many respects because people don't necessarily see everything that somebody is doing. You might find somebody a very annoying person, but actually the things they're doing, they are doing far more worthy things for other people and that than the person that thinks they're so clever and good.
And we might see only one side of
Yeah,
the person,
that's right,
whereas
yeah.
not
Yeah.
always.
It's like
But
doing
God
your-
sees into your heart and knows the whole person sort of
Like,
thing.
do your things in secret when it says
Yeah.
so that your right hand
Yeah,
doesn't
they're
know what
only-
your
There
left
is a sort of quite a thing against billionaires in this country at the moment.
Quite right,
And-
Sue.
Well, just because you're not
Yeah, but would
one.
you say that if someone gave you £1 million today, would you still
No,
go that
that,
same contract?
sorry, there's and
Yeah.
the person that I know you all love called Jeremy Clarkson. He writes in the Sunday Times every week, and last Sunday he wrote that he has a mate who is a billionaire, one of the 156 in the UK, so there's not that many. And he gave £3.5 million to keep a piece of, he said, well, basically Henry VIII, Catherine of Aragon took, but to keep it in this country where it can go into a museum case and then get lost among all the other bits of took, but he kept it in this country and nobody sort of, they said what he'd done. And he said, but what nobody knows is he gave £13.5 million. I can't remember what the cause was, but quite just sort of
Something to do with
quietly,
education, wasn't it?
yeah, an education thing. And he said it seemed to be better than giving it to sort of Angela Rayner's severance pay. So they do a lot of good on the quiet. So
Yeah.
There are a lot of people, and I mean, you look at for example, footballers, their salaries a week, 70, 80, 90,000 a week, some of them. But some of them, that's the kind of worldly wealth, and what do you do with that? But I also know a couple of stories where actually some of the African footballers, they do so much, building schools and hospitals and all that. I mean, even here I know Rashford was doing quite a lot and all that kind of. So it's not the wealth which is bad in itself. But what do you do with it? I mean, Bill Gates had loads, and there came a point in his life he thinks, well, there's something else I can do with that. Because it's sort of. So I think Jesus never really criticized. I think we think he talks a lot about wealth, but it's not saying you can't have wealth or you can't be wealthy. And I always believe that God really, throughout the Bible, never said that I want people to be miserable. Blessing we talk about, God wants people to be happy. And Jesus said, I've come into the world so that they may have life to the full. What does life to full mean? It's being sort of reasonably good life, isn't it? In all senses. The wedding feast and all that. So I think what do you do? There's certain line where you say, I've got everything that I need, no, I don't need any more. So if I do have more, let's use it for the good of others. Because yes, I can live. I've said it before. Money doesn't give us peace of mind or restless nights. You can have all the wealth in the world, and I said in one of the sermons, I said you might have the sort of the most beautiful and expensive bed in your bedroom, and you could still spend a restless night, or somebody might be on the homeless or on the road, and it's not encouraging that, but they might have the best night of sort of the much better night sleep of than I have.
Yes,
Yeah.
I was going to say that. Yes, that was good.
Yeah. So anyway, so next I'll choose something that's the 3 Gospels, and we'll study. Hope this is useful. This
Very
session.
good.
I have understood. To be honest, I never understood this. Thank you. I was trying to find out, to make sense of this, and I think I've learned how to.
Yes.
So the danger with doing with these parables with you is now, I won't look clever when I'm doing this. You will know. You will already know.
We'll know the sermon.
We're learning together.
At least not everybody from the church is here.
If you give us the tip, we'll know to go to Sainsbury's.